Establish a recon post downstairs.
Code Red, repeat. We are at Code Red. Recon Plan Charlie, execute. Move, 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 move!
What possibly could be Pixar's most upcoming and bright futures within movies was their first release of Toy Story. Toy Story was released in 1995, and it is a story about a cowboy doll by the name of Woody, whose owner, Andy, a child, received a space toy by the name of Buzz Lightyear for his birthday. And we just see just this adventure of just kind of like overcoming just a little bit of like jealousy, be in the spotlight in Andy's life for so many years, and then now he has to drastically share it. And it's just like a coming of age of just learning about these toys and learning about each other, and just, you know, just kind of breaking and just going through the outcomes.
Yeah, it's a classic tale. It's what really got a lot of people into Pixar, and it's made a lot of us grow up together. I mean, it's a buddy film. It's two people that seem to hate each other right off the bat. It's one of the clear-cut and best bro buddy films that kind of exists. And one of the best parts of it is it requires nothing really special other than to enjoy it. Of course, you can pick it apart and you can find small little inconsistencies if you really wanted to, but unless you're talking about the animation, it holds the test of time perfectly well.
And I think that's the thing of Pixar. They said, okay, this movie is either going to make it or break it, and we'll see how, the box office and how critics are going to be, or how they're going to give praise or, negative criticism to Toy Story, because with Pixar and Toy Story, that's the future of animation. It's not just like the traditional hand-drawn, how, Ty and I grew up together as we were born in the 90s. Now it's like clear-cut animation, 3D animation, computer graphic animation, and even if we did a little bit of hand drawing, there's a little bit of computer technology that's involved in this animation.
Absolutely. I mean, it was the beginning of a lot of CGI, and Pixar has always been the standard to which everything else is placed against. And while it hasn't aged well, it's also not their fault. It was the best of the best at the time, essentially balancing everything they possibly could out. And as we go further into the films and in the more current, we'll watch as everything keeps up to that standard of, if you're using CGI, they tend to stay right to the absolute best that you can possibly hope for. And this is one of those weird moments where we have to say and admit that there's not much else to say about the original Toy Story. We don't have to worry at this point. I really don't want to worry about spoiler warnings, but the character enjoyment and the cohesion between Woody and Buzz and all the other characters feels natural. It feels expected. There's small things every so often you can wonder, like how the army men are able to lower down something that is at least 10 to 15 times their own possible weight. But since we're in animation land and family and children movies, it fits. You don't have to worry about it. You can just go, okay, this is happening, problem solved, let's continue on. And that's what happens. There's very few inconsistencies, there's very few problems, there's still questions that come up, like why is characters acting the way they do, but it's kind of part of the beauty of the world that they're building, in that they don't have to answer it, and they can show, you know, inconsistencies or consistencies as they see fit, because the world that they've built just does kind of line up. And as of the moment, there's nothing that I would say that this should be any different or any better, because it's the world they made and it makes sense.
I'm surprised how they got away with some of, maybe they had to do like some deals, but for a Disney Pixar films, I'm surprised how, you know, they added like the names like Play School and Mattel.
Mm-hmm. But yet at the same time couldn't use G.I. Joe because they had to use Combat Carl. And
I realized something too now that I'm growing up and know my cars a little bit. In that gas station scene where Buzz and Woody entered in that pizza car or truck or whatever, it was a Toyota vehicle.
Really?
Because in the back it says OY, Toyota. So there's a couple of things now that we're older that we didn't catch as kids, which was kind of nice little like Easter eggs for us to realize how they had to avoid like
mentioning
other like company names for like copyright or what's the other word for it?
Trademark.
Yeah, it's trademark.
But yet still being able to use the toy you're in a toy movie referencing toy, just still chuckling and makes it. It's fantastic. I got nothing much else.
So what was the conspiracy that was behind Toy Story, where they had to do a whole 180 of Woody's attitude, because he was just a spineless jerk.
Or not even just spineless. He was a controlling absolute, you know. He was essentially he was a dictator. He said and did and expected everyone to follow suit. And I find it hilarious that in the first showing, the Pixar team was kind of embarrassed to show it because they kind of knew that it was a bad idea, and they essentially went through and they had oh shoot, who's the voice actor for Woody?
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks, thanks you. I knew I was going to say the wrong one, and thank you. But they had to have him come back in so that he could add some more lines so that they could redo the entire animation about that to make him into this more amiable sheriff that's trying to get along, to go along and make everything happen, and then oh crud, he's jealous because his spot's being taken and
by a newer and fancier and up-to-date technology of a toy.
Yeah. And it's just pleasant.
Pixar is definitely one that has grown within the ages, not in such of animation, because as Tyler said, the animation was as best as it could be in 1995. But if you ignore the animation style, the story is ageless. It is really great, and I know us born in the 90s, there are kids out there that grew up with us now have kids of their own, and I know this is one of the top movies that they're showing to their kids. So between a 1 to 5, how would you rank Toy Story?
Honestly, a 5. It's a gold standard, and there's a solid reason why it's a gold standard. And there's definitely things that haven't aged well, but taking in the considerations of the time, place, events, and everything else, it's a 5. There's just nothing really bad about it.
I have to agree. On Cyntillating Reviews, this is the second time that we have to put a movie a perfect score, 5 out of 5. While, in a way, as we can't stop repeating it, there are a few flaws in the film, but that's the flaws that it could, just slightly be ignored because of the time. But when it comes to, stories, cast of characters, and cast of voice actors...
Yeah, the on-screen synergy of the characters and the working between everything just just works. It comes up every so often throughout films, and we'll probably address it again in the future. But the synergy and action between the two just work.
So this is all that we have to say about Toy Story. As I mentioned last year, this was an idea that my husband and I were going to do. We were going to do like a month of Pixar, but because certain events occurred, it was impossible to do it. Plus, Sherlock came into our lives, so that was double the impossibility. But now that he's older, he's calmed down a little bit, and we have a little bit of time that Tyler and I can do this, we can actually plan out these Pixar movie reviews as husband and wife. So the next Pixar film that we're going to review is Bug's Life. And this was, during its time, kind of a film that was a hit or miss, I guess, just because it was competing with DreamWorks' Ants. So Ants came out around the time that Bug's Life premiered. And I faintly remember this film, but I do recall that I keep saying there should be a sequel for this film. And it doesn't have to be a direct sequel to Bug's Life. This could be something totally different.
But we'll get into that.
But we'll get into that in the next review when we talk about Bug's Life. So what did you guys think of Toy Story? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Are you like my husband and I, where that was your very first Pixar film that you've been exposed to in theaters? Let us know your thoughts down below. Thank you guys so much for stopping in at Cyntillating Reviews. If I reach 250 subscribers, I will review and possibly react, if I am allowed to, When Blackbirds Fly. It is written and produced by Jimmy Screamer Claus, who is responsible for When the Dead Go to Die. And that was Cyntillating Review's very first video on this platform. Also check out my Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, where I'll post updates and keep on tabs of upcoming content. See you later on another day.